Begin the current Daf Mesechta Sotah Daf Lamed Vav. We begin on the top line of the Yomid. The Gemara continues the brisa from the previous Dafim, discussing when the Yidden crossed the Jordan River. Again, we introduced this brisa because in our Mishnah we spoke about El Namarin, those things that are said b'chaloshin, and one of them, and as a source as another one, was when they had by Hagriz Mahar Abel the brachas and the klolas. That was after they crossed the Jordan, and therefore we got into a discussion regarding when the Jewish people crossed the Jordan in the beginning of Nach and Sefer Yehoshua. Corresponds Bekazich and Cheskel to Entam Daf today's Daf. Some discussing today's Daf are the events that transpired after the crossing of the Yarden, the contradiction regarding the Tzira, which is poisonous bees, whether they entered Eretz Yisrael, which was at that time when they crossed over the Jordan. The division of the 12 Shvatim on Har Grizim, Har Abel, again, obviously returning to that discussion of our Mishnah. How the names of the Shvatim were inscribed in the Avnei Ephod, where they actually split the way they were split by Har Grizim and Har Abel. Yosef, which actually gets into discussion also about the names on the Ephod, which was related to Shekidushim Shemaim B'Seiser, as we all know the story in the Chumash, where he refused to be with Esha's Petifa. So they added on one letter on his name from Hashem's name, which is an extra hey. Yehuda, as we'll discuss more in the next daf, he sanctified God's name in public. So his whole name is Yud Kei Vav Kei with a dalet inside. That's the name of Yehuda. So the Gemara continues now with the events at the crossing of the Yarden, as you could begin on Daf Lamed Vav Medalf on the top line of the Amid. Says the Gemara, says the Brisa, come and see, how many miracles happened that day over Yisrael Yarden. So first of all, they crossed the Jordan. Obviously, very miraculous that the Jordan River was able to be crossed. And Uvar Lahar Grizim Lahar Abel, they came to Mount Grizim Mount Abel, Yesem Shishim Mil. This is all on that same day. With 60 mil, right, a person travels whatever, how many mil a day, this is 60 mil that he traveled. Would it be 20 mil or whatever? They traveled 60 mil on that day. Then Kolber Yechoy Lamed B'fneim, and no one was able to stand in front of them, meaning as enemies. Whoever tried to stand up in front of them, Miyad Nitraz, he became soiled from waste matter. Like it says the pasuk in Shemais, my awe I will send in front of you. This is Hashem telling the Jewish people. Which Rashi says Hamaisi means like a loshon of mahuma, like overwhelmed and tumultuous in their body and what's inside of them. So therefore, like the waste matter, their digestive system is going to get turned around, and they're going to get zachbamachen. That would happen to anyone that gets in front of them. And like it says in Shemais by the Azyasher, which refers to when the Jewish people are conquering their enemy, it will fall on them fear and trepidation. Now, it says over there, actually in the Azyasher, to tell us another lesson, it says, Ad Yaver Amcha Hashem, until your people pass Hashem, that Zubi Rishayna. This refers to the first time they came into Eretz Yisrael. That was in the days of Yeshua ben Nun, which is what we're discussing over here, as we're illustrating it. That there's a tipul alema mosa v'fachad, as the pasuk says, that's what happened when they crossed the Jordan. They entered Eretz Yisrael. That there was an eman afachad. So, but it says twice when we say the Azyasher, it says ad yavar am Hashem, ad yavar am zukanisa. So what's this redundancy when they're going to pass over, entering into Eretz Yisrael? So ad yavar am Hashem zubi rishon is the first time he came in the days of Yeshua. Yeah, and that's where there was Ima Fachat. Now it says, Ad Yavar Am Zukanisa, until you pass over this people you have acquired, Zubi Yishniya. That's the second entry into Eretz Yisrael in the days of Ezra, after Galus Bavel. Says the Gemara, that tells us now, Ru'uyin HaYisrael, it was appropriate for the Jewish people, that it should have been miraculous, Bevi Yishniya, the second time they entered Eretz Yisrael to build the second base of Mikdash, Kibir Rishayin, like the first time they came to come with their arms stretched out, and they shouldn't be indebted to the governments. But the sin of the Jewish people during the days of the first Beis HaMikdash was decreed on them that even though they're going to come back 70 years later, the second Beis HaMikdash is only going to be with permission from the government, like it says, Mi b'chem b'kol amoy, it's safe in Ezra, that they have to get permission from the Persian government, but again, it was only because of the chet they caused it, but they should have been able to come as miraculous as they did the first time. Continues the Gemara, going back to the brisa of the miracles that happened on that day when they crossed the Jordan, and then he is saying all these things they did on that one day. Then he they brought the stones, which was also those stones that they brought from the Jordan, and they built the mizbeach, and they plastered it with plaster. They wrote the whole Torah on it in all 70 languages. Very well explained, where that's in all the different languages. And they sacrificed, totally burnt sacrifices, and they ate, they drank, and they rejoiced. That was also the day when they had the brachas and the klaus and har grizim har evil. And then they folded up the stones. And they went and they spent the night in Gilgal. Shlomo says a pasuk in Yeshua, you're going to bring it over with you. You're going to put these stones in your resting place, in your lodging. Now, you would think they put in every single place where they lodged these stones. It says over there, that you're going to spend the night. And it says later on, it says over there in the pasuk, that all the Jewish people and the elders and the officers and the judges, they were standing from this side and this side of the. It says V'shteim esrei avanim elam ashalachu b'gomer, that these 12 stones that they took, etc. The pasuk there ends in Yeshua mina Yardin, from the Jordan Hikim Yeshua Gilgal. That's the ones that they erected in Gilgal. So you see, it's those 12 stones that they put up there, and that was it. They didn't take it from every single place. Now, Tana, continuing with crossing over the Jordan into Eretz Yisrael, so a related discussion, tzira, which is a certain type of a sheretz that is from a winged creature, lo avrimon. So that tzira did not come over with them into Eretz Yisrael. No, but it says over there in Shemais and Perich Gimel, it says, I'm going to send the tzira in front of you into Eretz Yisrael to harm the Canaanim. So you see, they did pass over. Rabbi Shloimy Schwartzberg says, no, al svas yardin amda. The tzira did not pass over, this type of a stinging bee, but rather it stood at the edge of the Jordan, and it threw the bitter thing at the Canaanim. It blinded their eyes from above, and it castrated them from the bottom. So like to the pasuk in Amos, and I destroyed the Amorim, and I destroyed the Amorim from in front of you. That like the height of a cedar is their height. And they're mighty like oaks. And I destroyed their fruits from above, that refers to their eyes. And their roots from the bottom, that refers to the castration, that it did it from the other side of the Jordan. That's one approach. Papa gives another answer. He says, no, shtei tziras habi. There were two tziras. One was from that of Moshe, one was that of Yeshua. The Moshe over, the Yeshua over. You're right. The one of Moshe did not pass over. The one of Yeshua did pass over. So it's not a stira. Depends which one is the one that passed over or not. Now the Mishnah had told us this is really why we brought in the whole thing crossing the Jordan, because right after they crossed the Jordan, we said Bo'isa Yoim is when they did these brachas and klalas on the har grizim har evil. So going back to the Mishnah, we said Shisha Shvatim Allah Rosh har grizim b'chulu. The Mishnah explained in detail the brachas and the klalas. 6 were on har grizim and 6 were on har evil. The Gemara wants to know what's this pasuk? As I started saying before, that it says over there, Chol Yisrael, all the Jewish people and the elders and the officers and the judges, they were standing from this side and this side of the Aron, opposite the Kahanim, the Levim, who were carrying the Aron of the Bris Hashem, Karger, Ka'ezrach, everyone. Half, it says, Chetziel and Mul Har Grizim, half was on Har Grizim, Chetziel Mul Har Evil, and the other half was on Har Evil, the way Moshe Ebed Hashem commanded to bench the people originally. That's what it says in Sefer Yeshua. So the Gemara wants to know, what's v'hachetzi? Like Rashi explains the Gemara's question, why does it have to say v'hachetzi? Which that sounds like either the designated half, or the half that's mentioned somewhere else, because hey is hey hayediyah, which means the well-known one. So what's v'hachetzi? At first it says chetzi, it should say v'chetzi. Chetzi v'chetzi. It says v'hachetzi. V'zokt v'hachetzi. Some of Kahani says, yeah, because it's somewhere else also like this. Where? Just like over here, the way the Shvatim are divided, Hagriz and Ha'evel, like it says in the Varim Chav Zayin, Eli Yamdu Levarach Haza'am, etc. Ve'el Yamdu Klala, etc. They were divided half and half. That's the way they were divided by the stones of the ephod. Where it also says Shisha Mishmaisam, where these 6 that were Hargrizim are written on one of the stones, and the 6 in Ha'evel are written on the second stone. And that's what it says, Vahachetze, that half that's carved out on one of the stones is on this mountain. That's what Vahachetze comes to teach you. Problem is, Meisver, the Gemara asks, that it says in the Brisa, Shtei Avanim Tayvais, there were 2 precious gems, that the Kohen Gadol had on his shoulders. Achas Mikan, Achas Mikan. One on this side and one on this side. And the names of the 12 tribes were engraved on it. And Shisha Lebenzu, Shisha Lebenzu. 6 on this stone and 6 on this stone. Shnemak says the pasuk in Shemais, Shisha Mishmoisam ala Eben Eches v'Gaimer, 6 of the names on one stone, etc. And the remaining 6 is on the second stone. And it says that the Shniya, the second was Kiltal Daisam, according to their birth. The last 6 were in that order. You had Gad and Asher, Yisachar, Zebulun, Yosef, and Binyamin. That was the way they were born. It says the Brisa, V'loi Rishayna Kiltal Daisam. But the first ones were not the way they were born. Because actually, and if you look at the pasuk, you could say that because it says 6 of their names were on one stone, and the remaining 6 were on the second stone, Kiltal Daisam. So that the second order was called the Kiltal Daisam. But the first stone was not. Because it actually said Yehuda, Ruvain, Shimon, Levi, Dan, and Naphtali, which was the way they were born, except for Yehuda. Because, says the Braisa, Nesh Yehuda Muktam, because Yehuda was placed first. Okay. Continues the Braisa. There were 50 letters. Esther Mechamish 11 Zu, 25 on this stone. Esther Mechamish 11 Zu, 25 on the other stone. Now Taisus brings him the Yishami that says, wait a second, that's not right. There was 23 on one side and 27 on the other side. According to the one who says that it's divided the way it was Har Grizim, Har Evel. So, and that's if you spell Zvulun complete with the Vavs, then you'll have a total amount of 50, but it'll be 23 and 27. So on that, the Yerushalmi answer from Yechanan that Binyamin actually was split into 2. That first you had on the ones of Har Evel, that you had this was the second stone, had Beis and Nun. And on the first stone you had Yamin with a Yud, Mem, and Endinun. And Rabbi Zvida there in the Yerushalmi says it's tak a good pshat, because it doesn't say Shisha Shmoisam, it says Shisha Mishmoisam, which means to say not all of the name, but from the name. And Binyamin therefore was actually split, and that's how you get 25 and 25. So it's Ben Yamin. Akapanim, that's what the first opinion the Brisa says, that the way the stones were actually, and again we're contradicting this opinion of Rav Kahana. Rav Kahana was trying to say, what's Vachetzi? Vachetzi is, just like the mountains, that's how the stones. Har Grizim Har Evel was split that way. But we see one man, the Amr says clearly that it was in the order of their birth, and that's how it was split on the stones. He says, as you get to what? You counted? No, probably not. Oh, I didn't count it. Yeah, it's probably not. There's no vavs. You don't count the vavs. There's going to be 23 and 27 if you spell Zavul and Mole. You have to know how the spelling was or whatever. Al Kapanim, but he says, he says, he says, not the way they were divided in Sefer Bamidbar, where in the beginning of the Sefer Bamidbar, it says, Elish Mois HaNoshim Yamdu. That's not how it was Chalukim B'Avnei Ephod. That's not how they would divide it in the two stones of the Ephod. Ella rather, the way they're divided in the second Chumash, meaning in the beginning of Sefer Shmois, it says Reuben, Shimon, Levi, Hudi, Yisachar, Zvulun on one of them. The second one says Dan Naftali, Gad, Asher, Yosef. That's how it was split on the stones. Ketzad, how so? So says the Brisa, Bnei Leah Kesidron, the sons of Leah were in that order. Bnei Rachel, Echad Mikan ve'Echad Mikan. You had one on one stone, and you had one on the other stone. And Bnei Shvachas B'emtza, and you had the sons of the maidservants in the middle. So Ve'elaman Mekayim Kirtal Doisam. What do I do with the pasuk that says in their birth order if it wasn't in their birth order? It says Gemara doesn't mean Kirtal Doisam, doesn't mean that the numbering was in their birth order. It means Kishema Shekar Lenavihin. Kirtal Doisam means to say we just called them, the names were written according to the names they were given at birth. Like Kishema Shekar Lenavihin, but not the names that Moshe Rabbeinu called them. What does that mean? Because the stones said Ru'uvein v'lo Ru'uveini, Shimon v'lo Shimoini, Dan v'lo Hadani, God v'lo Hagadi. Because Moshe Rabbeinu added on when he said that when he's counting the mishpachas Ru'uveini, that's what it's saying that, but it wasn't written like that. But like upon him says the Gemara to Yuvta the Rav Kahana, because like Rashi explains, according to everyone, this is not the order the way they were in Har Grizim and Har Evel. Because by Har Grizim, says Rashi, you had on one mountain Har Grizim, Shimon, Levi, Yehudi, Yisachar, Yosef, and Binyamin. Har Evel, you had Reuven, Gad, Asher, Zvulun, Dan, Naphtali. That's not the order of any one of these Tanoim. It's not the order of the way it's the 25 and the 25. It's not the order of Chumash, Sheni of Shemais. It's not any way of these opinions. So therefore, says the Gemara to Yufta, it's a refutation of Rav Kahana that you can't say the Hachetzia was to tell me that, the half that's written elsewhere, which was the Avnei Ephod, because you see that the opinions, according to both, the order of the Avnei Ephod is different than that of Har Grizim and Har Evel. So says the Gemara, okay, so Ve'elamai Bachetz, we're back to our question. Why does it say about Har Evel and that half, as if we know what you're talking about, when it's not referring to the Avnei Ephod? So in the Brisa, Chetzir Shamul Har Grizim, the half is coming to tell you that the half that was on the Har Grizim was Meruba Mechetzir Shal Har Evel, was more than the half that was on Har Evel. It says Rashi, that's why it says V'hachetzir Mul Har Evel. Hachetzir, says Rashi, is the lesser of the half. And that's how Rashi says. And the half is telling you that, and the weaker half. Now, why was it like that? Why were there more Har Grizim? Mipnei Shalevi Lamata. Because with the Ziknik, Kuhun, and the Leviah were with the Aron between the two mountains, as the Gemara is going to tell us later on Daf Lamed Zayin. So therefore, there were more Har Grizim. So, and Taisa and Amanav discussed at great length about the calculations about how many the numbers actually were and the actual metrics. But it says the Gemara, Adrabah, to the contrary, because labor was on the bottom, so Batzilahu, actually, that's half of Har Grizim should be less because Sheva Levi was from those in Har Grizim. It was Shimon, Levi, Huda, Yisachar, Yosef, and Binyamin. So if you tell me that Levi was on the bottom, so then to the contrary, you should be having less on Har Grizim. Why should that make it more? So the Gemara says, no. What we're saying was, even though Levi was on the bottom, even so the half of Har Grizim was more, because Bnei Yosef Imohem, the children of Yosef were with them, which there were many of that. Like it says the pasuk in Yeshua. So the sons of Yosef, the tribe of Yosef, were speaking to Yeshua, saying, why do you give me a portion, a part that's one? And I have a multitude of people that Hashem benched me so much. And Yeshua said to them, if you're a multitude of people, go to the forest. What was he telling them? He said to them, go and conceal yourself in the forest, that that the evil eye should not take a hold of you because there's so many people can look. Oh wow, so to go into the forest, you should hide. Amalei, they said to Yeshua, no. Zara de Yosef, the children of Yosef, the evil eye does not rule over them. So like it says the passing Bereshis. Ben Poidus Yosef, a charming son is Yosef. Ben Poidus Ali Ayin, a charming son that's to the eye. Now, Avama Bevoy says, I'll take it Ali Ayin. Don't read to the eye. Ela Oili Ayin, rather above the eye. Meaning they go over the eye and the eye does not go over them. The ayin hara does not take effect, and therefore we don't have to hide ourselves in the forest. Brings a source of pasuk in Bereshis that the Yaakov benched Menashe and Ephraim, the sons of Yosef, the Yidgu Loraiv Bekerev Haaretz, and they should proliferate to abundance in the midst of the land. Now the word is Yidgu. Mad dogim should be just like the fish in the sea. Mayim mechas malayim, the water covers over them. Vein ayin shaletz and therefore the eye does not dominate over them. Also the sense of Yosef, the eye does not rule over them. So again, we don't have to go al kapanim. We see that they had an amrav, and therefore, even though labor was in the bottom, the half of Har Grizim was more than the half of Har Abel. Says the Gemara, wait a second. This that you're saying that there were 50 letters on the Avnei Ha'ephod, actually Chamishim Necheichad Havin. There was actually 50 minus 1. Which, as Rashi says, the one that's missing is on the second stone. So Rabbi Yitzchak, he says, Yosef haisivu eis achas. Yosef, they added on to his name one letter, which we actually referenced this before. Shemak says, a pasuk in Tehillim, Eidus b'hoisev shemai. Testimony in Yosef was his name, b'tzeisal eretz Mitzrayim, when he went out on Eretz Mitzrayim. So you see, Yosef has an extra hey. So therefore, that's why you could get a total of 50 and not 49. Masculine of Nachman Yitzchak, he says, but we need it to be like the names that their father called them when they were born. And it wasn't called Yosef when he was born. Ella rather says the Gemara, a different shot. The whole Torah, Binyamin Ksiv, it says Binyamin without an extra yod at the end. Binyamin Shalim. Here it's Binyamin with 2 yods. Complete. It says in the passing Bereshis, Binyamin, mitzvah yods, and therefore you can get a total of 50 letters, not 49. Okay, going back to this theme of Yosef having a letter add on to his name. Someone of Chana Babiznam, Reb Shimon Chasida. Yosef Shekidush Shemayim B'Seisa. Yosef that sanctified God's name in private, where he was secluded with an erva, and he stood his ground and he conquered his inclination. They added on one name of God's name. Probably in today's day, most people have this Kiddushim Shemayim B'Seisa, where a person is nisyached in an erva, so to speak, and no one else is around. And you could have a ois achas of Shemosh HaKadosh Baruch Hu added on to his name. Yehuda Shekiddushim Shemayim B'Fehesa, Yehuda that sanctified God's name in public on the sea by the Yamsuf, as we'll see later on the next daf. Nikur Kuloi al Shemosh HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He was called entirely by God's name because God's 4-letter name is included in the name Yehuda. Says Gemara, Yosef Mahi, what's the story that happened with Yosef? This is a passing in Bereshis. It was on this day. He came to the house to do his work. Comes to teach us that both of them, Eshes Potifa and Yosef, were intending to commit the sin. And when it says they came to do malachta, his work, it means tashmish, it means intimacy. As the Gemara brings a machlekes. He came to the house to do his work. Rabbi Shmuel. Machlekes Rabbi Shmuel. Chadama one says, Lasa malachta mamish. Yeah, he came to do his work, literal work. Chadama one says, no, Lasa tzrochav nichnas. He was coming to take care of his personal needs of tashmish, which Taisa says, because it says the term of vayavoy, which is lashon bia. That's what we're like, a lashon of bia. He was coming to do bia. Now it says there in the pasuk, "Ve'ein ish me'anshe habayis v'goymer." There was none of the members of the household around on that day. Is it possible such a large household like that, wicked person, Potiphar was this big minister, tens and teams of people there every single day. How could it be that there was no one there? So says the Gemara, that day was their holiday. They all went to the Heichel. They went to the sanctuary of their Avodah Zarah. But Eshes Potifa said to them that she was not feeling well. Amra, she said, Ein li yaim, I don't have a day. Yosef is a Jew. He's not going either to the house of worship. So there's no day that I could be together with Yosef but such a day. So it says in the pasuk, she grabbed hold of his garment, saying, "Be with me." At that moment, came the image of his father, and appeared to him in the window. Now, Taisa brings it interesting from a Moshe Darshan. When it says in the pasuk, "Ve'ein ish me'anshe habayis sham bebayis," sounds like, yeah, Dafka anshe habayis weren't over there. The inference is that someone else that's not from the people of the house, in other words, someone very different from the people of the house was there. And that was the figure of his father. Which Taisa says a little bit wonder, how they know that he was appeared to him in the window? Says Taisa, maybe because it says babayis. Sounds like that, yeah, there was no person in the house. But out of the house, from the window, there was someone else. Who was that? It was the image of his father. Appeared to him in the window. Amalai said to him, Yosef, your brothers will ultimately be written on the stones of the ephod, and your name is there amongst them. It's interesting, I said it's already there. You want your name erased from between them? And that you should be called Roya Zainis, the shepherd of the harlots? Still like it says the pasuk in Mishlei. The Roya Zainis and the shepherd of the harlots, Ya'abed Hoin, will lose the fortune, meaning his good name, which Rashi says is more precious than all of the fortune. Miyad, right away, like it says by Birchas Yaakov, benching Yosef, what he did, Vateshev be'esin kashte, and he settled with his might his bow, which Rashi says refers to his semen, because it shoots forth like a bow, that he took control of. Which Amar B'Yechid Mishmei says Sheshava kashte leisanai, that his bow went back to its might, meaning he controlled himself. So it says over there in the pasuk, the Yefaizu Zraya Yadav, which simply the pshat is like a lashon of puz, like it was jewels, the arms of his hands. But Vayefaizu could also be that because a zayin and a tzadi are exchanged, it could be a Vayefaitzu. Like we find zakas and tzakas both mean the same thing. Zayin and tzadi are interchangeable. They're very similar sounding also, just a little bit different. So it's like Vayefaitzu, like as if it's scattered. What does that mean? No, it's Yoda Bekarka. He stuck his hands in the ground and he leaned on them so that it should be painful, which is actually a very good distress tolerance tool actually also. It's actually good also for utilizing for what Yosef also wanted to, for someone to be able to hold in. Yitrid B'tzar, he was overcome with his pain, and it passed the, which is called riding the wave, the power of his inclination. And so to speak, how to translate this, but that the semen came out from between the fingernails of his hands. I mean to say that he eingehalten. So it says over there, midei, from the hands, Avi Yaakov, of the mighty one of Yaakov. Meaning, who caused Yosef that his name was carved out in the stones of the ephod? Ella Avi Yaakov is the mighty of Yaakov, again, because Yaakov appeared to him from the window. Now it says over there in the pasuk is over Birchas Yaakov, Misham Raya, from there he shepherded Evan Yisrael, the stone of the Jewish people. What does that mean? Because Misham Zachav and Asaraya. From there, Misham is Raya, he married it and became a shepherd. Like it says in the pasuk, and that's what's saying the Evan, that's the stone of Yisrael, which was his father. Like it says the pasuk in Tehillim. The pasuk says that it's going regarding the Shechina. It says Raya Yisrael Hazina. The shepherd of the Jewish people listen. Noihe Katsoin Yosef. He leads like the sheep of Yosef, meaning their manhigim is like the sheep of Yosef. So obviously we call the Jewish people the tzoin of Yosef because he is the raya, he is the shepherd of the Jewish people. Now, actually, Tanya in the Brisa, Yosef lotzim men Yud Shvatim is actually was supposed to be 12 tribes coming out of Yosef. like it came out from Yaakov, his father. Like it says in the Pasuk Bereshis, Ela told us Yaakov, Yosef, these are the offspring of Yaakov, as Yosef, meaning to say that the Toldos that came out of Yaakov, accordingly, were supposed to come out of Yosef. But his 10 fingers, out came of his fingernails, of his 10 fingers came out the seed of his other 10, and they only had 2 sons, Nash and Ephraim. Or maybe he had more, but Akapanim, that's where the semen came out from. Even so, he came out from his brother Binyamin. The 10 that were diminished from Yosef, from his 10 fingers, came out from Binyamin. And actually, Binyamin called them all based on his brother Yosef. So that's a very interesting correlation because of that fact. Shemach says in Pasuk, Binyamin, sons of Binyamin were Bela, Ubecha, Ashbel, Begomer. Why did he call them these names? All regarding his brother Yosef. So Bela was because Shenivla ben Umas, because he was absorbed amongst the nations. He was swallowed up. Ubecher was Bechor Limahaya, who was the firstborn of his mother. The Eshbel is Sheshabe El, that God put him in captivity. Begeira was Shagor Bachsana Yoyis, because he dwelled in a foreign land. Benaman is Shanom B'Yosef, was very sweet. Eichi Bereish, so Eichihu is my brother, Bereishu, and there's my head. Mupim, which Rashi brings from Medrash Tanchuma, that his mouth was the mouth of Yaakov Avinu, with the halachas that he got from Shem Ve'eber. So that's Mupim, that's the word of his mouth, Piv. Bechupim, what's that? He didn't see my chasna, I didn't see his chasna. V'ord is sheyared lebein umes ha'olam, that he went down amongst the nations of the world. Ikadami, another pshad, v'ord is actually shapon of dom and leveret, that his face is similar to a rose. Now, Aram B'chibar Abba Yechanan, b'shosh amlei parai liYosef, when Parah said to Yosef that ubaladecha loyoram ishes yod begomer, that besides for you no man shall lift up his hand, you can become second in command. Amrut stagnini pare. So the sages and the stargazers, the astrologers, they told the Paroi, a slave that was bought by his master for 20 silver coins, you're going to make him dominate over us, all of the Egyptians except for you? He said to them, he says, the etiquette, the wisdom, the might, the beauty, the conduct of royalty I see by him. They said to him, yeah, but if that's the case, if he's really cultured, he should know all the 70 languages. So Gabriel Amalek came and taught him the 70 languages. Now the problem is he wasn't able to learn. He wasn't getting it. Going back to that what we mentioned before, that they add on one letter, Yosef's name, and then he was able to learn. Like it says in the pasuk, we say this in the Shir Shal Yom, that the testimony in Yehosef was his name, but Seisal Eretz Mitzrayim, when he went out in Egypt, and as some Girsayos have, Svasle Dati Eshma, the language that I didn't know, I understood, that's the 70 languages that he taught him because of the extra hay that was added to his name. Now, Lamacha, the next day, any language that Pari spoke with him, he responded to him. But Yosef spoke in Lashon HaKodesh. Pari didn't know what he was talking about. So Pari said to him, Agmari, teach me this language. He taught him, he wasn't able to understand it. He said to him, swear to me, so you're not going to reveal to anyone that you know a language I don't know. He swore to him. When he told him years later, my father swore to me saying to go bury him in Eretz Canaan. He said to him, go and try to go and ask a chacham to be mater your shvua, because he didn't want to let him leave to go to Eretz Canaan. He said to him, should I go also and ask on yours also? Which actually, meaning even though you wouldn't be okay with it. So Amalei said to him, okay, yeah, you got me. Go and bury your father in Eretz Canaan the way he made you swear now. This brings actually that how could he be shoyl on his neder without Pari's consent? But that's what the Gemara brings regarding Tzidkiyahu and Nebuchadnezzar. The Gemara says that Nebuchadnezzar was caught eating a live rabbit by Tzidkiyahu. and the Nebuchadnezzar said, I'm going to make you swear you won't tell anyone. But later on, he couldn't halt Zachain, so he went to the Chacham and they were mattered. Nebuchadnezzar was all upset that word got out. He went to the Sanhedrin and said, "What are you doing?" So he was matter the neder. He says, "Could you matter neder shaloi b'fanav of the subject that made him take the neder?" He says, "No." So he was all upset and he punished them. So Tosfos wants to know. He says, "Hamud no mechavera imatin le'el b'fanav." So how could Yosef threaten him that I'm going to matter that shvu of yours? I'm going to let people know you don't know Lashon HaKodesh. Says Tosfos, maybe b'fanav means even bal karchai, meaning to say, yeah, it could be in front of the person, but even against his will. But Tosfos says, but that's a tmiyah to say that when matter in front of the person, the whole point b'fanav is not stam in front of it; it's that it's with his consent because he was the one who made you take the neder. Says Tosfos that maybe it's just an exaggeration, meaning you're right. He technically would not be able to be matter the shvua without par's consent, but he was basically showing him, like, putting him in his place and saying, don't tell me such a thing because you know that, I have this on you, even though I can't technically do it, and therefore that says Tosfos was what he was telling him. Think to any time. Those things.